Do you have 26 also? Good. So if you go to page 25, we will not do any meditation today or any chanting, so we can save more time. You have 25, right? Page 25. You don't?
We have 26, I feel so. This is 26, I feel so.
Can I see? Oh, I meant photocopy, 24, 25. Well, I will read that for you. Yeah. Well, it's just one thing to learn. Like, we have two kinds of realities. One is conventional reality, and the other one is the ultimate reality. So, conventional realities is just the ordinary way of experiencing the world. We will say, I went to Toronto, I came back. So we use the I language because we don't know any other way to explain. We just briefly say, I went to Toronto, I came back. So there you understand the message. But if you go to explain it in detail, you would say 4 elements went to Toronto. Well, 4 elements went to 4 elements, and then 4 elements came back to 4 elements, kind of. So it's just a weird way to communicate. So we don't do that kind of, we don't engage in that kind of conversations. People will feel crazy if they listen to a conversation in those terms. And then we have the ultimate reality. Ultimate reality is called the intrinsic nature of a human being, and the way something that you cannot reduce any further. It's ultimate. Those two words, I think, will come back to us again and again in this discussion. So, Sammuti Satya is the conventional reality, Paramatta Satya is the ultimate reality. So, Paramatta, the ultimate sense, that's how you break it down into English. That's the only thing that you missed from page 25. And then, if you go to page 26, you find two words, ontological and epistemological, in the very first passage. So what is ontological is about a being, someone's just nature of a being. And epistemological is something about classification of knowledge. Abhidhamma is about classification of knowledge. So not oncology. Oncology is about cancer, right? Ontological, something about the person, something about the being. And epistemological is about the classification of knowledge. So, and these are some important words, in our conversations. Then you have,
What is epistemological?
Classification of knowledge, epistemology. Well, we will read that paragraph. Shall we read it out loud together? That'll be fun. The ultimate realities are characterized not only from the ontological angle as the ultimate existence, but also from the epistemological angle as the ultimate objects of right knowledge. As one extracts oil from the sesame seed, so one can extract the ultimate realities from the conventional realities. For example, being and man and woman are concepts suggesting that the things they signify possess irreducible ultimate reality or unity. However, when we wisely investigate these things with the analytical tools of the Abhidhamma, we find that they do not possess the ultimacy implied by the concepts, but only a conventional reality as an assemblage of impermanent factors of mental and physical processes. Thus, by examining the conventional realities with wisdom, we eventually arrive at the objective actualities that lie behind our conceptual constructs. It is these objective actualities, the Dhammas, which maintain their intrinsic nature independently of the mind's constructive functions that form the ultimate realities of the Abhidhamma. Great. So here we understand a couple of things. One thing is that when we say conventionally this is a man or this is a woman, in ultimate sense, that's not what we can see. But we need to use that conventional tools and break it down to see the essences in like what when you take the physical bodies of a man and a woman, they're all the same. But if you take the mind's nature, they are not different, but you have a specific way of looking the ultimate nature of both units, whether it is a man or a woman. The ultimate nature, the spirit, the third eye, the consciousness, the mind, or whatever, the way it works is the same for both the man and the woman. So when it comes to awakening, the gender biases, racism and everything disappears. They don't have any meaning in the true heart of awakening. Therefore, the discussions we do here, I think, they should lead us to a higher state, to open our deepest potential as human beings, no matter who we are, whether we are a man or a woman, doesn't matter. But we don't know what is happening because we don't really stop and see, but in a small effort to meditate, I think we are making big changes within us. Our way of being, our way of relating to the world, the wisdom that we develop, the mind's way of how it cultivates harmonious, wholesome energies. I think these changes are happening within us. I have seen from monks who have genuinely practiced meditation, their mental capacities are very, very high, but they only dedicated just so much of their time from the day to sit and meditate. Other times they were just dealing with regular, day-to-day things they had to do, like writing books, talking to people, giving talks, And when we open our ultimate potential, we need to know that the Buddha did that. He had the ability. That inspired people to follow him. He was able, according to the sutras and according to the belief, he was a person who had cultivated the mind to the fullest potential. That he communicated with divine beings, right? He saw things he saw things from his third eye. When he was talking to some monks, he could see that there were other beings behind or in front, some superior, some inferior, depending on their mind's nature. So he was seeing so much more than an ordinary person saw. And even at in the last 3 months of his passing, into his passing away, he said, If Ananda, the attendant monk, requested him, he would have lived for an eon, very long time. So this statement is, something that we cannot easily ignore if we engage in a discussion about ultimate potentials of a human being. Although the Buddha did not mean to exist forever, and he does not really exist now, he's not existing anywhere in any form. People who don't understand Buddhism, they always ask, like, where is Buddha now? And that's a question that they ask because they are missing what really happens after the enlightenment. After the enlightenment, you live your life, but then as you pass away, you don't exist in any form of existence. And then this video spoke about the healing power with the man who went to that place in Verona. Some places are very, very important places, no matter what faith tradition, what religious site that is. Even a Buddhist going there, or Christian coming to a Buddhist place, or Buddhist going to a Christian place, or an Islam place. So I think there are two things about that: the energy there, or maybe some super being in that place, and also the intentions of people who gather to that place. Like this center, over the time, people like you have been coming to this place, and you are contributing to the cleansing of the place. Because of your cultivation of wholesome thoughts. No one ever really gets angry here, for anything. Like, you don't come here to fight with Dhamma. You are coming here to just cultivate wholesome. That intention, I think, adds some energy to the place. A religious site, I think over the 1,000, 3,000, 4,000 years time, a lot of good people have visited that place, and that also contributes to the energy field of the place. So quantum energies, they are talking about that, and it has been a big word in science, and they are still discovering the conscious base of it, like what consciousness has to do with it. Like a magnetic field, what ways you can direct your consciousness to heal yourself or to travel to some other place. Like in the Buddha's time, there were these monks who could just walk in the universe, like in different systems. This monk named, I think, Revata or Rohita, I forgot his exact name. He could travel, he could just, taking his physical or astrological body, he even asked the permission from the Buddha to just go until his lifespan ends. The Buddha said, don't do that, you will just never find an end. He said, you will go for about 100 years and you may die, but your search for an end or some knowledge about what's really happening outside will not meet with any satisfaction, because human potential is also limited with lifespan and how far this body can survive, different aspects of it. And also in the teachings, the Buddha said what he has taught is just this much, and there are so many things he has not taught. I think maybe God also says the same thing, right, in the scripture. What God does is this much, but he does more than that, or he has more potential. You don't know what it is, but believe in it. So these words really inspire people to have the positive image. Anyway, back to Abhidhamma. Can go on and on. We have about 15 minutes to go. Shall we read again? Although ultimate realities exist as the concrete essence of things, they are so subtle and profound that an ordinary person who lacks training cannot perceive them. Such a person cannot see the ultimate realities because his mind is obscured by concepts which shape reality into conventionally defined appearances. Only by means of wise or thorough attention to things, yoniso manasikara, can one see beyond the concepts and take the ultimate realities as one's object of knowledge. Thus, Paramattha is described as that which belongs to the domain of ultimate or supreme knowledge. There's a footnote, I don't know where it is. But let's continue reading. Altogether fourfold. So when you see that part in bold, you should know that this is a commentary. So this is a commentary for a book written in short form. So it takes it takes that quotation from the book and then explaining it in detail here. So what is meant by altogether fourfold is what we are going to read next. In the suttas, the Buddha usually analyzes a being or individual into 5 types of ultimate realities, the 5 aggregates, panchakanda: matter, feeling, perception, mental formations, and consciousness. So matter, there is the 4 elements: earth element, water element, fire element, and air element. Feeling is 3 kinds: pleasant, painful, and neutral feelings. And perception can be different shapes, things you perceive, colors, as you experience any perceptions in meditation or outside of meditation. Mental formations, the Pali term is sankhara. So in mental formations there are 3 things. Let me just name them for you. Feelings, again, feelings come in that too, feelings and perceptions, even in the mental formations. And what's the other one? Consciousness. Feelings, perceptions, and consciousness. These 3 cannot exist independently. They have to exist together. When there are feelings, there is something to perceive, and there is also you being conscious on that thing, on that feeling. That's how they exist together, mental formations. And last, consciousness, vijnana, to be conscious on something. So there in Pali you have the word nama, rupa. So rupa is the matter or materiality. Nama is the rest of the 4, like feelings, mentality. Feelings, perception, mental formations, and consciousness. These 4 are mentality aspect. And the other one, matter, is materiality. So nama rupa is translated as mentality and materiality, or in simple terms, name and form. So name is the last 4 things, form is the matter. In the Abhidhamma teaching, the ultimates are grouped into the 4 categories enumerated in the text. The first 3, consciousness, mental factors, and matter, comprise all conditioned realities. The 5 aggregates of the Suttanta teaching. So Suttanta teaching means teachings in the discourses, the teachings of the Buddha. The 5 aggregates is Panchaskanda of the Suttanta teaching fit within these 3 categories. The aggregates of consciousness, vijnana skandha, aggregate of consciousness, is here comprised by consciousness, chitta. The word chitta generally being employed to refer to different classes of consciousness, distinguished by their concomitants. The middle 3 aggregates are, in the Abhidhamma, all included within the category of mental factors, cetasikas. The mental states that arise along with consciousness performing diverse functions. The Abhidhamma philosophy enumerates 52 mental factors. The aggregates of feeling and perception are each counted as one factor. The aggregates of mental formations, sankhara khanda, mental formations, aggregate, of the suttas is finally subdivided into 50 mental factors. So what you find in the suttas is only sankhara skandha, but if you go to Abhidhamma, you have it broken into 50 mental factors. That's the way of Abhidhamma. Analyzing things. That's why we don't hear Abhidhamma in general discussions. It just goes into matrix of stuff. So this is, just don't try to wrestle with this very much. Just classifying things in different ways. You don't even need to remember this. The aggregates of matter is, of course, identical with the Abhidhamma category of matter, which will later be divided into, again, 28 types of material phenomena. To these 3 types of reality, what are the 3 types?
Conditional reality.
An absolute reality, what's the third one?
Ultimate reality.
We'll see. Which are conditioned is added a 4th reality, which is unconditioned. Chitta, Chetasika, Rupa, Nibbana are 4 ultimate realities. So Chitta is the mind, Chetasika is mind's factors, Rupa is matter, Nibbana is the ultimate 4th reality. So these are the 4 realities according to the Abhidhammic way of understanding it. So Chitta, the mind, Chetasika, the thoughts or the mind's factors, Rupa, the matter, and Nibbana, the ultimate reality, which is unconditioned. The first 3 are conditioned, but Nibbana is unconditioned. That it's not caused by something. There is no material building of Nirvana or Nibbana. Like in our previous discussion, the cessation, consciousness ceasing to exist, and we were wondering how does it really exist in that, how do we exist in that stage, right? But we don't exist. It, as in psychological existence, we don't. The materiality does exist, and then we come sort of like our what's the word for that? Jivitindriya. The life continuum, that thing exists. That's not the exact translation. The vitality and different factors continue, therefore we emerge back into our being. When we emerge from the cessation experience. If you read 43 of Majjhima Nikaya and 44, which we discussed here in previous discussions, very profound teachings. Please go back to those anytime. We need to, even have these on the side so you can refer to them again and again. Because these are really very subtle teachings, and we don't want to give wrong teachings. But if you go there, what you find is, like when you have experienced cessation and you come back from it, what comes first and how you emerge, whether mental formations appear to you first or verbal formations like in-breath, vitakka vichara, thinking and examining appears to you first, or in-breath and out-breath appear to you first. So in-breath and out-breath is, these 2 are bodily formations, you feel it bodily. And verbal is, you first think and then they speak. So thinking and examining is verbal formations in Buddhist terms. And what is mental is, Vedana, Sanya, Sankhara and Vijnana, four things. Feelings, perceptions, formations and consciousness. These four. Well, formations is not discussed very much with the other three, but it's there. Something formed, therefore it exists. So that's how I can explain these things. Again and again, when I come to that discussion, that's the only way I have explained it before. Because we only have the discussions from the sutras and the knowledge that we use for that discussion, not the experience at all. So, one time I sat under a tree trying to experience cessation, but I never succeeded. Like, this was in Indonesia, we were in a retreat. Everyone was doing good meditation, so I was like, maybe I'm in a good stage, maybe I may experience this thing called cessation. I was inspired by the teaching that night, but it didn't happen. But you can get very frustrated expecting that. I wasn't though. I think that was a good thing.
You didn't go there?
No.
Well, expectation brings conditions, isn't it?
Yeah. So when you have experienced cessation, you only know it, I think, after emerging from it. So by trying to analyze it. So you cannot really precondition it and then go in there. But third eye and stuff, I think, are discussed before that. Like having divine ears, so you can hear things that an ordinary human cannot hear. Seeing things that an ordinary human being cannot see. So these are other dimensions of the mind that can be developed after stilling your energy totally and awakening into those potentials. Try that tonight. Who knows how close you are? I don't know. So to these three types of reality comes from previous pages, right? I mentioned to you the four realities which are conditioned. Is added the fourth reality which is unconditioned. That reality which is not included in the five aggregates is Nibbana, the state of final deliverance from the suffering inherent in conditioned existence. Nice way to put it, right? Thus, in the Abhidhamma philosophy, there are altogether these four ultimate realities: consciousness, mental factors. So consciousness is Chitta, mental factors Cetasika, matter, Rupa, and Nibbana. Chitta, Cetasika, Rupa, Nibbana.
So is Nibbana part of feelings and perception? How are those connected?
Nibbana has nothing to do with feelings and perceptions.
What is cessation of feelings and perception?
Yes, cessations of feelings, perceptions and consciousness. Everything before is ceased, including the matter,
Something before is conditioned.
Everything before is conditioned, and in Nibbana, nothing conditioned exists. And how that happens is only clear to us from an understanding from these sutra discussions. As one experiences, say, the eighth attainment, which is called neither perception nor non-perception, right? When you don't have even that to perceive, if you take that as a perception, and now that too disappears, so you have nothing to be conscious on, then consciousness ceases to exist. It vanishes like a flame disappears. So there you experience the cessation. It's not you experiencing the cessation any longer because you didn't see you in relation to those stages. You saw something away from materiality. You saw the immateriality, arupa, formless stages. Because neither perception nor non-perception is a formless stage. And you don't have any desire to exist in that formless state. You existed in formed stages before, and now you are experiencing formless stages, and you let go of your wanting to exist in even in those forms. So when you see that those perceptions as impermanent perceptions, you don't see any value of remaining, getting stuck in it. So you let go of that holding on to that too. There you, something to hold on to vanishes. That's the only way you can see it, logically. So nothing to hold on. But your physical body exists. So once you have gone in there and then you come back. In coming back, the whole world you knew before has now changed. You believed in a lasting essence of a self, and now you saw that it broke, the continuity broken. So when somebody says there is a lasting essence of a self, you don't believe it, because you see something different. And when you experience these are very powerful experiences. And you are very, very slowed down, really. That's why they choose forest places for meditation, and they do long sittings, so they get enough seclusion and viveka, leisure time to analyze this, process this. So you don't have to answer a call and then go back and study that. Seclusion is highly. Even when the Buddha was visited by about 500 Brahmins in the village called Ichanangala, Venerable Ananda was the attendant, and not Ananda, Nagita. So Venerable Nagita went to the Buddha and said, these people have brought you so many gifts and they love to see you. You have such a reputation here, although this is your first time here. The Buddha said, no, I don't want to see any of those people. I like having nobody in front of me when I go somewhere and nobody behind me. So I can even pass urine without having to worry about anybody. He said that in that sutra. Yasagama also, because the talk I gave yesterday in Toronto, I did for this lady, her name is Yasas. So I wanted to find a sutra by that name, and I found one. In that the Buddha says these things. Yasa something. So seclusion, Buddha always wanted that. He had more work to do in his mind than attending to. And he was in that sutra. I will give you the exact name, so you can also go read it. Maybe we can do that for our discussion next time. Yeah, I did. In that, he says about different monks who live in monasteries like this. And the Buddha clearly says these monks are not meditating. It's about us, We are not truly doing it, totally committed to that goal. And then ultimately, as he brings up the 8th monk who is really doing it. And he is the only one praised by the Buddha. who goes with real intention to a secluded place, never engage in any conversations. So you see the ideal monk in that picture. That's what is expected. Not me or not us here doing all these things and then trying to meditate a little bit. The Buddha would kick us out from this monastery if he came. Yeah, this is not what he intended in those days. Not to satisfy people, not to answer calls, not to go for meal invitations, and not to engage in social services. None of that. This, what is happening now is the complete opposite of what the Buddha intended. But we survive, we do our little here, and this is the only way I think we can, this is one of the best ways, but a smallest way is possible to deliver the message from the Buddha as a group. So that way we can be happy, but we also need to be honest about what the Buddha really intended. Anyway, so we watched that video, the time is up. We read these parts, I think, even earlier in some place, but we have more to discuss. The more we discuss Abhidhamma, I think we are convinced about a different reality, some different way of seeing everything. So a lot of different words, you will learn them as you go. So what did you learn? And what were you shocked about? Or anything at all that you want to share? Or nothing at all?
So is Nibbana, besides not existing, is it also pure awareness?
No.
No. So is there no awareness?
No. Yes.
There's
No awareness. There's no one being aware in that stage.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
There's knowingness
no.
or no?
But there's no idea of self, so there can't be an idea.
So who is
I
who
don't
is
mean self though, I just meant like the whole universe, like just
yeah,
part of the
like
one
combining with
there.
the whole universe and existing in that form.
But being aware, not necessarily seeing and filtering through a consciousness, but
No. That's a form of existence.
yeah.
No form of existence. Every energy has dissolved and does not exist in any form. Very interesting.
Seems kind of scary.
Seems scary, that's true. Yeah. So people argue like, do you want me to be a useless something, or this is again like they say you go and live with God. What's the word? Like in Buddha's time they used the word Brahma Sahavyata. Brahma is the creator God. So Sahavyata is like uniting with God. In Christianity the same concept is taught. The God will embrace, forgive you for all your sins, and you will be with the God. And patients I saw in hospitals, they, when their relatives visit them, they say, oh, you will be in good hands. And again they say things like, oh, you will see your mom there, you will see your dad there. And so these are really contradicting to Buddhist teachings. Well, you will see your parents if they pull you into their karma, and if they put, if they are existing in certain spirit forms, they will definitely, there's potential that they are also wanting to welcome you into their world. If they are born as human beings somewhere else, then there's no connection again for that lifetime. So these potentials are explored in Buddhist teachings. But in other, traditions, these are like some scary, I think they don't go in there. But we should not ignore the fact that there were saints who developed psychic abilities. They saw these things, they experienced these things, but they didn't openly, made it necessary to teach those things. It was individual's potential and experience.
So then you hear the expression pure love. So that's before that too.
Yeah, that's before that. That's before Nibbana, but
Yeah.
it's possible after death, just to exist in pure love. Different ways to exist. Pure love, heaven.
So then is it oblivion?
Yeah. What is there to be oblivion about?
Complete nothingness.
Nothingness is experienced even before that. Because there is an experiencer to experience nothingness. But in Nibbana, it's not about nothingness or emptiness.
But everythingness?
Not even that. If we say any of that, then it's conditioned. Maybe your question will clarify more.
Well, it was a question related to hers, because often it's said that the Buddha warned disciples against the extremes of eternalism and nihilism
Yeah.
at the other extreme. And I guess very often in talking about Nirvana,
Yeah.
once you start, all the definitions are negative in the sense of it's not
Yeah.
this, it's not this, it's
Yeah.
not this.
Yeah.
So it kind of becomes hard to distinguish
Mhm.
it from nihilism at
Yes.
some
Yes.
point.
Yes. People become convinced that this is nihilism, but
what
Yeah,
would
go
be the
ahead.
difference then?
the difference is only explained in terms of conditioned and unconditioned. So nihilism leads people to believe that you will exist for 1,000 years, then you stop. So there is that law explained with nihilism. You continue for certain number of years or eons, or in the Buddha's days it came with that background. Therefore Buddha rejected that. There is no law like that to exist. It just flows depending on what it is conditioned with. And if you make an effort even now, you don't have to wait 1,000 years to overcome, emerge, to be awakened, and then you stop. But I think we should have more ways to look at this question and not just ignore it. So we should bring more material to the readings. I have read it because when you go to universities here, you have to read different philosophers like Nietzsche. And Marxism, because in Germany there was this philosophy developed, and discussions went on, and even refuting some words of the Buddha and then coming back to it again, in some ways to understand what nihilism is. So let's find out more material. If you find anything, please send my way so we can incorporate that into our next discussion. So probably for the next week I will bring that sutra and something about nihilism, if we have more time to continue the discussion on Abhidhamma. Do you have any questions?
Was it?
Do you have any questions?
Well, I don't know, it's a question.
I'm putting you on the spot.
Kind of a observation or follow up with the discussion. So I was actually wondering about the Nibbana, how you define it, like is it, or isn't it the, way of, expressing the cessation of existence?
Yes.
So cessation of existence means, so what is existence? So basically, energies, like what we saw in the video, and energies, you can't destroy the energies.
Mm-hmm.
So energies are, I don't know, we can call it the eternal.
Yeah.
But then at what point those energies transform into existence? Because the existence will create some kind of a life form, or into a state that it can't transform
Mm-hmm.
into a existence or life form. So that's
So you take Nibbana as an energy that it can transform
it's
into any other stage.
that's what I'm trying to understand.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a state of energy that will not transform into a existence.
Well, when we talk about Aganya Sutra is about knowing just like Genesis of Buddhism, knowing how the universe came to exist. There is this, millions, billions of years before, there was this evolving experience of the universe, not a human being. So before that, it got all destroyed and humans vanished. But they existed in different energy forms, like feeding on happiness, traveling in space. So we see that story in that. So that means human energy did not vanish when materiality was attacked or destroyed with fire and whatnot. And now we evolved to these stages. We don't know how far we will evolve. It seems like we are able to continue for millions more years, ahead of us. And then, so that means energies. But Nibbana seems to be something out of the discussion of energies too. Yeah.
Yeah, what I was thinking for Nibbana is like the elements, carbon, the atoms, everything get together and then slowly it makes a person and it has consciousness and mind and all that. But we have to control the mind, so we don't want to have a body and we don't want to be that. So Nibbana is a state where we take off everything that was put together and just going back to the elements again, so there is no consciousness, no nothing.
I think that's a very good explanation. Yeah. Especially the word consciousness came at the end. So no way consciousness can survive. So in that, can you say energy went back to 4 elements, or energy went back to something?
In the nitrogen, oxygen, hydrogen, it's those elements are there. The energy is there, but there's no mind.
So materiality, the Buddha's materiality it's not Buddha's materiality anymore. It's just the nature of the universe that exists, but no such a person called a Buddha. That formation no longer exists, right? And for Nibbana, even Buddha did not give any solid interpret, because it's not, words are lacking in trying to explain what Nibbana really is.
So go ahead.
Sorry, but if Nibbana is it's nothing, and yet it's the goal, what is desirable about that goal? What is worth going towards that goal?
So you don't do the same stuff you did in this life again and again,
Right.
and that's one advantage of it. And you don't really know which ways you will bring the bundle of suffering, the baggage with you, to cause more suffering to yourself and others. And Nibbana is the only way out, and only, especially when someone is suffering from something really, really bad, they need a way out. So Nibbana is the way out. So you look at the samsara in all kinds of negative ways, and the only positivity you see is Nibbana. And also within this life, when you experience that stage, it's not you experiencing it or anything, but the Buddha says it's beyond all the pleasures that you have experienced in the human experience in the world. So it's not that your experience, you go there as a person to experience it, but it's like ohita bharo, the weight has been now lifted and put off. Those words are there, like siti bhuto, cooled down. Therefore, it has this addictive effect, although not everyone desire to reach that stage.
What has an addictive effect?
The experience of cessation and living in that. So, even first stage of Nibbana, second stage or third stage, they are not really meditative stages, but they are about your understanding. But when you go to certain samadhis, you put your burdens down and you stay there, and you can see that you are enjoying liberation in you. Even after Buddha's awakening, he did meditation. Why did he do that? He found different ways to exist away from the human body. But it's hard to answer, like fully give a convincing answer to anybody for these questions. So I should understand that too.
I think the whole concept of attaining Nibbana is looking into this entire samsaric, journey, because there's no guarantee that you will be a human all the time. So you can
Exactly.
you can be different ways of existence,
Yeah.
life forms. So that's
You can be an animal, you can be a hungry ghost, and your last thought determines that. Go ahead.
yeah. So looking into that entire samsaric, journey, that's where I think that the desire to attain Nibbana comes.
Yeah. The word, I think it's good you use the word guarantee. There is no guarantee that you will remain a human in all your future lives, because it's not in your control. Nobody's controlling it, but conditions recondition it depending on the experience. Like karma is part of it, but not entirely the big force behind it. Yeah, you had a question?
No, I guess I was thinking about the experiment they did with the two slits, and I was trying to connect that to the idea of Nibbana. Because when they did that experiment, with all those quantum particles, right?
Yeah.
As soon as they had those consciousness, as soon as they looked for that particle, it acted a certain way. But when they didn't, it was very random. It was multiple realities, right? Multiple. And I think that's what in Nibbana I think is more like, if you're looking for it, it's very hard to do because it's like that particle. If you're looking for it, it's going to act a certain way. So it's a complex mindset. I don't even know how to explain it.
Given that you accept it as a particle or something that exists in a certain way.
Right, like because there is uncertainty when you're not looking for it. I think you can go crazy thinking about different ways to understand what Nibbana. Well, not really crazy, but it is beyond ordinary conversations. But it is a process. So there is a way you can have this understanding about that this is possible, and then deal with the world with that view in your mind. That there are people who discuss these things this way,
and the Buddha is someone who experienced it, and his monks, followers went there, and the world is in a completely different direction. And also you need to bring the Indian background at that time. People were talking about these things. And now in the Western world, Buddhism is about practicing compassion, it's about mindfulness, anxiety reduction, yoga therapy and healing. The Buddhism and Reiki has become, I think, almost synonymous sometimes. Just it's a healing thing. And, Buddha statue should be there in your garden, and you have to have meditation bell. And Buddha had none of those. He just had his bowl, so he could beg for some food, and he didn't care about burning sun, and just trees were his places to live. And if people built a monastery for him, he lived there for about 3 months and then he went away. In some places he came back, but again went away. He wasn't attached to such a different lifestyle. Easy in Indian context, even now, if you put on robes and go to Hyderabad and start begging for food, people definitely throw food into your bowl. So food is, and if you ask for medicine, some people definitely give you medicine. Even here they do that, but if you take a bowl and go from place to place, maybe they will put you in jail here, or they will not really understand what you're doing. Some monks have done it, it has confused people here. I have never done it here, and I've only done it within monasteries. So everybody knows what is happening. Thai monks have a practice called Tudong. Dutanga is the Pali word for that. So extreme austerities. So 2 English monks who practiced this in Thailand did that in England. So they decided to just, live in barns and different places, but continue walking for 3 months, and they would stand in front of supermarkets thinking that people will offer them some food. They cannot ask for food. And sometimes Thai people, Buddhist people who know what is really happening, they would want to really take care of these monks and even go behind them too. So as soon as the message goes, somewhere along the road people will line up to offer food. Especially at that particular time that they are going to eat, they will bring food. Because it's inspiring for people to know that there are people, monks like these, doing this kind of austerity practice. But when they go to English houses, you find kind people. Sometimes you find really aggressive people, like people who question, like 2 monks going, with strange, outfits. Like they think that's a gay couple, who act and live in a certain way. So there is a book written, which is called Blistered Feet, Blissful Mind by Ajahn Tim. I have the book. He mailed it to me when I was in Italy. That's him. He was a monk at that time, when he went on Tudong practice. So they do that, but not everyone. Not even even here, like in Toronto, monks do that. But only those who know what is happening, they will approach to you. But others may even you will scare them away from you.
Because of the different culture, and
Yeah.
they don't have. Yeah, if you don't ask, you don't give it, right?
Yeah, you have to ask for it. You have to
It
tell
may be
about it.
bad, but you have to ask. Otherwise, you can eat food, but the other one is not. You don't give anything, but if you ask, they will.
Yeah. You have to ask for it. Like, this reminds me of an American going for an interview. I mean, this is just an observation from Asian way of looking at things. And then a Sri Lankan going for an interview. This will be fun for you. But an American who, whether they had the qualifications or not, they will just talk about them. But for Sri Lankans, it's uneasy for them to talk about themselves. So they would not do that in the interviews. And Americans will perhaps be recruited, but the Sri Lankan may not be, despite having qualifications. Because they are always in this culture taught to, promote themselves.
One more thing at Madras University they realized was a lot of the Asians at the interviews don't look at your face, they look down. That's another thing, people think you are lying or something if you don't look at the face.
Yeah.
So they say look at the face and talk, but our culture is don't look at someone's face.
Yeah, interview culture is new to Asia, but here interviews from school to. Did I sound racial though? I mean, when I talked that way, please correct me so I can survive in this society without having a problem.
Recognizing cultural differences.
Yeah.
Is important.
Yeah. Anyway, let's.
Either we have to understand that part, or either they don't understand. So we don't understand.
You have survived here.
Of course, I survived, and I know I made many mistakes just after coming here. So we don't know. Very beginning, I came to work in a hospital, and I had a candy, and I tried to give a little boy there. I was like, "You want one?" I give. Then one of the my colleagues said, don't ask mom first. So in Sri Lanka, you don't eat like, especially when you're candy or something. If a kid, you just give away them. It's no problem. But you can.
Yeah, you can.
Do it without permission. So I learned the lesson right there.
It has to be Halloween for you to give candy. Not kids run away from you.
And there are many examples like that.
We need to have more discussions on this.
I think it's good we are discussing these things. And doctors in Sri Lanka are like gods, also monks, but here we don't see that. And for teachers, we never call them by name. We always say sir or miss or madam or something. Here, students don't do that. It's just Peter or something. It's very uncomfortable for us.
When we see a teacher, it's like we saw a monk, we go and bow the teacher, and they so respect that.
Every opening of a school term, we would bring some gifts, and then we kneel down and gift it, give it to the teacher, and then sort of like asking for forgiveness for any mistakes you do. You could do that at the end of the term and at the opening of the term. So those cultural things. And also to, as soon as a teacher comes, we stand from seats and say, Ayubowan, may you live long. And the teacher says that in return for us. So here, students don't even know when the teacher came sometimes. Because they electronic devices have now hijacked the intelligence and a lot of things, despite hormones hijacking intelligence and different stuff. Anyway, shall we end the discussion? So, I don't remember what do you remember? Do you have the transferring of merits thing? Can I have one? So, not that. It's a single page in the chanting book. Maybe in one of those. That's okay. We will say. I think, let me try to remember. May the suffering ones be suffering free. May the grieving shed all grief. May fear struck be fearless free. May all beings be at ease. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay. This was an interesting discussion.